biology video lectures with Akerele Oladimeji Philip. It's good to have you back on the lecture. So today we're moving on to kidney as an homeostatic organ. All right, so let's get started. You can see the two kidneys on the picture here, but bear in mind that this very one on the right is faulty, but the aim was just to show us what the kidney looks like. All right, so the kidney are fixed this size. It depends on the body size, but it doesn't sometimes get too big. It doesn't mean if somebody is very big you have a very big kidney. No, it's not always that very big. It is found at the lower back. It is being shaped just as we saw, and it's found at the area called loin. All right, now each kidney receives blood from renal artery. So the renal artery carries oxygenated blood to the kidney, and that renal artery takes its origin from systemic aorta, while the blood leaves the kidney through the renal vein, and that renal vein joins the inferior vena cava. Now what you need to understand at this point is that the renal artery is carrying oxygenated blood, but the blood is unfiltered. It contains a lot of impurities, while for renal vein is carrying pure filtered blood, but the blood is deoxygenated. So it's not all the time that we have to just associate bad content of blood with the vein. In this context, the vein is actually carrying a pure blood, just that the blood is deprived of oxygen. All right, now the urine is formed within the kidney and it drains into the ureter. Then ureter takes to the what? Urinary bladder. All right, now the kidney executes homeostasis via its excretory and other functions, because that's why I said the function of the kidney as an homeostatic organ, because it has more than just homeostatic functions. All right, now the blood is filtered every 40 minutes. For the two kidneys that we have, it filters all the blood within 40 minutes or thereabout, depending on how fast the heart pumps the blood. So we move on to the parts of the kidney. So on the transverse section, where the kidney is sliced into two, seeing the inside, you get to see three distinct regions, which are the outer renal cortex, and that consists of afferent arteriole, efferent arteriole, and renal corpuscles. As we move on, get to understand what these are. Then there's a lower layer or inner to that one. This is the cortex. The next one is what? Medulla, which contains renal pyramid and the tubular parts of the nephron and blood vessels. All right, then the last part is the pelvis. All right, so these are the regions. We get to see that in a diagram now. Now looking at this closely, you see the how do I get to see it? Okay, now there's always a capsule that covers the kidney. All right, then after the capsule, the next thing you see, where you don't have those striations, this side is called the renal, that is the cortex of the kidney. Then this part where you have patterns, so to say, is called the cortex of the kidney. So that part without pattern, so to say, this other region is the cortex, is where we have our renal where we have our corpuscles, the renal corpuscles and the afferent and efferent arteriole. Then here we have the tubular part of the kidney, which of the nephron, I mean to say, then and some other blood vessels. You can see that. So this is the pelvis I talked about, the space. That's the third region. All right, now each of this demarcation or this segment has a name. It is called pyramid. Each of them is called pyramid. Now the apex of this pyramid is called papilla. You can see that here. Renal papilla is the apex of each of the pyramids. So each of those segments are called pyramid. So the apex has a name called renal papilla, or papilla for short. So just look at this diagram and you can actually pause the video to see that, but I think I have a simpler one for you. Now, beautiful. So now there's something I want you to take note of here. You can still see the cortex, how thick it is. This is the whole of the cortex, as it were. This is the medulla with the segments. So on top of the segment, as each of the segments is called pyramid. You can see that here. It's called pyramid. Then on top of the pyramid is called what? Papilla. or we call it the apex of the pyramid is called papilla. Now, looking at this, the cortex, this thing you see here is called nephron. It's just drawing, you get to see it clearly. Now, this nephron has the renal corpuscles, which is the upper part that contains Bowman's capsule and glomerulus. I will show you that in a minute. That part is staying in the cortex, while the rest part, the other part of the nephron, which is the tubular aspect, renal tubule, is staying in the what? In the medulla. All right. Of course, that's not always the case. I will show you that in a minute. Now, this diagram here, now we are now talking about nephron now. And I will use what we just explained to buttress some facts here now. Now, the nephron is on, when you slice the kidney, you have millions of nephrons in the kidney. Now, for the fact that what the kidney is doing is executed by the nephron, so nephron is defined as the basic structural and functional unit of the kidney. Why? Because most of the functions, formation of urine, filtration, and all that is carried out by the nephron. So we call the nephron the basic unit of the kidney. Now, the mammalian kidney has two types of nephron. Basically, we have what we call the cortical nephron. It means that most of their parts are found in the cortex of the kidney. While we have the juxtamedullary nephron, which is between the between the cortex of the kidney and the middle of the kidney. You can see them here. You can see the cortical nephron is majorly found in the cortex of the kidney, and the juxtamedullary is found in between. Now, what you need to understand is that this particular this juxtamedullary nephron has a part it plays in urine formation. Some of them forms urine, but it helps to concentrate urine. So it is because it has a very long loop of Henle. And the longer the loop of Henle, the more the nephron will be able to concentrate the urine passing through it. All right. So this is another diagram showing us what. So this is the cortex of the kidney. This part. This is the medulla inside here. So you take a note of the fact that this part of the nephron is called renal corpuscles or mammalian corpuscle, and is found in the cortex. In case you're asking the question. Then the remaining part of the nephron, which is not shown here in this diagram, is all of these tubular aspects, which are found both in the cortex and in the medulla of the kidney. Now, this is a very simple diagram for you to get, so I think it will be easier for us to say some things at this point here. So, like I said earlier on, this entire region is found in the cortex of the kidney, while this place is called renal corpuscles or mammalian corpuscles. As you can see it here, it's made up of two things: glomerulus and Bowman's capsule. Then this remaining part of the kidney is called renal tubule. Is that clear? And some other books will call this Bowman's capsule, they will call it renal capsule. Is still correct? Is that clear? Now, what are the part of the nephron? I think I've mentioned that, but just for simplicity in arrangement, that part up there is called renal corpuscles or mammalian corpuscle. It contains two parts, just as I showed you earlier on, glomerular and Bowman capsule. The Bowman capsule is otherwise called renal capsule. Then the tubular aspect is made up of the following, which is proximal collated tubule, descending thick limb of Henle, thin descending limb, hairpin bend, the thin ascending, the thick ascending, then distal collated tubule. Then we have the collecting duct. I didn't add that here. Now, in case you are asked to arrange the movement of filtrates in the kidney, in the nephron, this is the order you follow. Or the same movement of urine, this is the order you follow. All right. So this is the diagram once more. Okay. Yes, this particular one you can see. So this is the proximal collated tubule. This is a thick descending limb, thin descending limb, hairpin bend around here, thin ascending limb, thick ascending limb, distal collated tubule. Then this is the collecting duct. This collecting duct is taking fluid from different nephron. So this one is releasing its fluid to the collecting duct. Other ones will drop it from other side. You can see that. All right. Now, what are the functions of the kidney? Now, the kidney has a lot of functions, role in homeostasis, regulation of blood pressure, hemopoietic function, which means it helps to form blood. It secretes some hormones such as erythropoietin, which helps to form red blood cells. Endocrine function is also helps to secrete hormones. The regulation of calcium. There's a level of there's a part it plays in formation of calcium. All right. So, but we'll be focusing mainly on homeostatic functions. So, what are the homeostatic functions of the kidney? We have excretion of waste products. It helps to remove urea, which is the ultimate waste product of amino acid breakdown. Uric acid, creatinine formed from muscles, bilirubin formed from breaking down of hemoglobin from red blood cells. Then harmful substances such as toxins, drugs, heavy metals, and pesticides. All right. So these are the things it helps to remove. It also helps to balance water. That is osmoregulation. The amount of water retained and excreted in the body is balanced by the kidney. Then also maintenance of electrolytes such as sodium, potassium, what have you, all those elements that are very important for our well-being. They also help to balance the acid base level of the body. So because if the acid is too much, the body might become acidic. That will lead to acidosis. Or if it is too basic, it will lead to alkaliosis. All right. Now, I will say at this point that most of these functions are performed at the same time. But for simplicity's sake, we splitted it into this. So as I will be explaining some of this now, I will be crossing each of them into one another, because while urine is being formed, most of these things are taking place, if not all of them are taking place at the same time. So just follow me closely. These are the functions. Then intermittently, I will call your attention back to this. So now, urine is formed in the kidney. And formation of urine is actually from blood passing through the kidney, passing through the nephron. First, we know the nephron inside the kidney. So as blood is passing through the nephron, urine is being formed within the kidney. So this is, like I told you, it's happening simultaneously. So while urine is being formed, we have excretion taking place, osmoregulation taking place, acid-base balance is taking place, maintenance of electrolyte is taking place. So all of this is taking place at the same time. So what are the stages in formation of urine? That is ultrafiltration, tubular reabsorption, tubular secretion is taking place simultaneously. So you can see this is our renal corpuscles or mammalian corpuscle. So there's filtration taking place here. So as the filtrate passes through here, there's tubular reabsorption back to the blood. There's some things are added, that's tubular secretion. I will break that down as we move on. So during the filtration of blood, that is when urine is produced. So urine drains from each of the kidney and is carried to the urinary bladder through the ureter. All right. Now, the longer the loop of Henle, the more concentrated the urine will be. I think I said that at the beginning. And the kind of organism, so the kind of nephron that does that is the juxtamedullary nephron that we saw at the beginning. And it is, we call our attention here that it's only birds and mammals that have ability to concentrate their urine, which means that they will have juxtamedullary nephron in their kidney. All right. So moving on. So this is the site. In case you are asked, what or where is the site of ultrafiltration in the kidney or in the nephron? It is the renal corpuscles, which is made up of two major things: the renal capsule, otherwise called Bowman capsule, and the glomerulus. So that is where the blood is filtered. So unfiltered blood comes in from the what's it called, afferent arteriole, goes into through this glomerulus. The dirt is filtered here. Then the clean blood continues journey as efferent arteriole. I think I have an animation that will make that easier for you to get. Beautiful. You can see the blood coming in like that, coming in. As it's coming in, the dirt in the blood is coming out. All of them will come out. Now, pay attention to this. It is not only dirt that comes out here, please. Some good things also come out too. And what comes out here is called glomerular filtrates. Glomerular filtrates. Now, some things that will come out that are not waste are water, glucose, amino acid, some elements, some electrolytes such as sodium, potassium, and the likes. Why did they come out? They came out because of their size. They ought not to come out. All right. So they are not waste products. So it means the body must find a way to add them back to the body and not meant to go out as a waste. All right, so let's move on. So after we have filtered that during glomerular filtration, the next thing that happens is tubular reabsorption. What are we reabsorbing? We are reabsorbing the things that ought not to go out as waste product. They only pass out by accident because of their size, and that includes our glucose. You can pause the video here to see it. That, let me zoom that in for you. Now you can see glucose, 100% of glucose is reabsorbed. Amino acid is at 100% absorbed. Now other ones, urea, sodium, potassium, phosphate, and the likes, they are reabsorbed, and water, they are reabsorbed based on the need of the body, based on some factors such as hormones. So please take note of, you can pause the video here, it's very simple to understand. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to reabsorb what the body, was filtered out of the blood that were meant to be useful, but they got filtered out because of their size. All right, so you can see that happening here. Now this is tubular reabsorption taking place. You can see water going out at this angle here. You see it's going to the blood. So before I go on, the nephron is surrounded by a tough what's it called, capillary, called peritubular capillary. So it's the one that will absorb what goes out of the nephron, because tubular reabsorption is from the nephron back to the body through the blood. All right, you can see that happening here. So like I said here, it depends on the need of the body for what will be absorbed. However, all of glucose, all of amino acid must be absorbed, but other ones, they are factors based on what we need that the body will decide how much of them will be reabsorbed. That is taken care of. Now take note of this region here. That thick ascending limb and disarticulated tubule, that part is impermeable to water. It cannot be permeable to water when there is ADH present. Of course, when we move on, you understand that the better. Then the opposite of tubular reabsorption is tubular secretion. It means that we are going to be adding some things to the contents of the nephron. Now these ones in pink, I don't know if I get that right, or violet, are secretion. It means they are being added to the contents that's already in the nephron. They are being added. So take note of that. You can pause the video. You can see urea, uric acid, creatinine, hydrogen ion, ammonia ion, and also potassium ion are being added at different segments. And some of them are added based on instruction, based on hormones. So you can pause the video here to see that, like I said, this one means reabsorption. It means secretion. These other ones are for reabsorption. I think I explained that earlier on. So this is tubular secretion, which means something is being added from the blood into the nephron. You can see that happening here. And also some things are being added from the walls of the nephron itself into the content in the middle. All right, so that's tubular secretion. So in summary, this is urine formation. We have glomerular filtrate taking place here, tubular absorption taking place at the renal tubule. Now you can pause the video here to see, it's just a summary of the process of urine formation I explained. So let's move on to osmoregulation of the kidney. How does it do that? So this is the maintenance of osmotic condition of an organism. Now before we go into the content here, let me quickly use these pictures down here. At this place here, you see those black dots represent solutes. The bluish one represents solvent. So what happens is that here the amount of solvent and solute within the cell and outside the cell is equal. So the cell is said to be isotonic. So what goes in, if you understand osmosis, because fluid will be drawn to where we have more solute. So because there's equal solute in the surrounding and equal solute in the solvent, there will be balance. The fluid that goes in will be the same fluid that will come out, the volume. But here we have no solute in the surrounding, but solute in the cell. So it will suck in solvent to itself, and this cell will become turgid. If care is not taken, it might actually become it might actually burst. So a solute like a solvent like a solution like this is called hypotonic solution to this cell. In this case, it's called isotonic solution to this cell because they are equal. On this other hand here, the number of solutes around the cell are far more than the solute within the cell. So this is an hypertonic solution within surrounding the cell. So it will suck out the water within the cell, and in no time that cell will rupture, will get it will shrink. Now, as an homeostatic organism, we must be able to, each of our cells must be able to balance the the solute surrounding it and the solute in it by balancing the water within them. So it involves regulation of water content and solute concentration of body fluid, particularly sodium, potassium, and chloride ions. All right. So the need for osmoregulation is detected by osmoreceptors found at different parts of the body. So explaining this will make you understand the fact that there's a need for our body to balance the water content, and this explains why sometimes we pass out large amount of urine and sometimes little amount of urine. Why? Because the body is trying to balance the amount of water in it. When the body notices that there's too much solute within the cell, it will conserve more water to dilute it. So you pass out little amount of urine which is concentrated. When the body notices that there are too much of water in it that will get it to dilute, it will allow you to pass out a large amount of urine. So you won't have hemodilution. All right. So the significance of osmoregulation can possibly to see all of that. Now, before we move on, I will call your attention to two things now. Regulation of ions concentration of the body fluid. That is to some extent controlled by an hormone called aldosterone, majorly controlling reabsorption and excretion of sodium and potassium. Then also regulation of water content, which I will be showing you a slide in a minute, is so importantly controlled by anti-diuretic hormone. This ADH helps to regulate amount of amount of water excreted. The more the ADH, the lesser the urine you will form, because it helps you reabsorb water, and it's doing that with the aim of making sure that you don't have too much of conc solution in our body fluid. All right. Now I will use this chart. Just follow me. It's very simple. Now let's imagine we start from this angle here where you see this yellow marking. So much of salt, or you are sweating too much. When that happens, there will be low water content in our blood, which means there will be more the fluid become hypertonic, which is not so good. And our pH is supposed to be 7.35 to 7.45 for our plasma. When that happens, it will send signal to the brain to secrete what is called anti-diuretic hormone from posterior pituitary gland. That one will increase the volume of water reabsorbed within the nephron of the kidney. When that happens, there will be low urine removed because we have reabsorbed more water from the nephron. Then when that happens, there will be the water restored to the blood will be normal. All right, hope that is clear. Then on the other hand, you can have too much of water consumed, or you are not active, you're not sweating. That will increase too much of water in the blood, which is not good. Then that will stimulate the kidney not to release ADH. Once there's no ADH, little or no water will be reabsorbed from the kidney, from the nephron of the kidney. Then you will pass out large amount of water. Then you come back to having what? Normal water in the blood. So this is very important. So as a law, I will say it slowly. The more the ADH, the more the reabsorption, the lesser the urine formed. The lesser the ADH, the lesser the reabsorption, the more the urine formed. So on a sunny day or on an active day, you are going to have more ADH. Then you can know what will happen afterwards. On a cold day, when you are covering your body with and all that, or you consume more water, you get to see that there's lesser ADH. Hope that is clear. So you can see this here. This is the urine formed with lesser ADH. This is the urine formed with higher ADH. So you can see what's it called? Water being reabsorbed. And I told you earlier, I said that this part is not, water does not get reabsorbed in it, but when there's a need to conserve water, when ADH comes into the scene, it causes all segments, including aspect that seems impermeable to water, to be more permeable, because we are trying to conserve water. So the body helps, the kidney also helps to carry out acid-base balance, so that there won't be too much of acid in the body and too much of base in the body. Now, the kidney is not the only organ responsible for acid-base balance. We have the renal system, which is one I'm talking about. We have the respiratory system, then the buffer system of the blood. So it's not the only one, but it plays a major role in that. So let's take a look at this now. Now, I hope you'll be able to zoom this in. So let me start from this number 1 here. So when this is the normal, what's it called? This one here, number 1 is the normal pH of the body. So let's say there's now a disturbance in the pH of the body. So the pH increases. Now, when pH increases, that means there's decrease in what's it called? Hydrogen, and that means we are tilting towards alkalosis. All right. Now, what will happen is that 3 things will be done. The kidney will play a role, the lungs will play a role, the blood will play a role, but I will just focus on what the kidney will do here. Now, the distal correlated tubule decreases the amount of hydrogen. Presence of hydrogen used to increase. What's it called? pH used to cause. Presence of hydrogen used to decrease pH, which means it will make us have acidic nature. Because what you should know is that from number 2, when we say we have blood pH increase, it means it has moved to like 7. That's moving towards alkalosis, which is not good. So at that point, we need something that will bring it back to its acidic medium, because what happened around here is that we are already becoming basic in nature. So what will happen is that we are going to bring component that will make it to become acidic. How do we do that? We will retain the little hydrogen we have, then we will conserve the bicarbonates we have. So there will be decrease in reabsorption. Increase in reabsorption of CO2 and HCO3. Let me say that again. We will conserve hydrogen. Hydrogen will help us to increase acidity. Then HCO3, which is bicarbonate, its presence will bring about basic nature. So we need to extract it the more. So you can see that we got decreased reabsorption of HCO3. So we need to extract more HCO3 and retain more hydrogen. All right. Hope that is clear. So that is what happens. So you can see in number 4, you can see then fewer HCl are removed from the blood and fewer HCl are available to bind with. So the aim is that we are trying to conserve. So for sure, just know that when there is the body is becoming alkaline in nature, the kidney will conserve hydrogen and will remove more bicarbonate. Hope that is clear. Then let's move to number 5. Number 5, it is restored. Now at number 6, this is what happens. For some reason, our body is now becoming acidic. There's decrease, the pH increases. There's now I'm trying to get that into place. Okay. Give me a minute. Now, okay, let's come and yes, this is where we start for this one now. So let's come back to this place for number 1 to tell us what happens when there's issues when we are becoming acidic in nature. So see what happens. Let me zoom that in. There is pH decreases. That means it's becoming very acidic in nature. There's increase in hydrogen. I told you, the more the hydrogen, the more acidic the thing becomes. Then see what happens. The distal correlated tubule increases hydrogen excretion because we're already becoming acidic. So let us excrete more hydrogen. Then it will now increase reabsorption of what? HCO3, which is bicarbonate, because bicarbonate will help us to neutralize the amount of hydrogen or the acidity already in place. So you can see what happens here. There is the number of hydrogen available in the blood decreases. All right. Then that's, of course, that is what happens. I'm talking in reference to the kidney alone. Oh, sorry. Okay. Yes. This is down here. More hydrogen are removed from the blood, and more HCO3 are available for binding. All right. Hope that is clear enough. Then pH is decreased. Then it is restored back at number 6. So you can pause the video here to just study. It's very simple. When you want to study, just go this way. When you want to study the how it maintains, how it restores from alkalinity to normality, you just go this way. How it restore from acidity to normality, you go this way. Hope that's clear enough. All right, so let's move on to kidney diseases. We have all of these diseases, which is diuresis, diabetes insipidus, glomerulonephritis, or some books call it glomerulonephritis, kidney stone, edema or dropsy, then kidney failure, which is total kidney failure. That means the two kidneys are not working. So the first one we start with is diuresis. Now, this is a condition. Now, really, it's not meant to be called a disease because it's in a large extent it's just a normal phenomenon. This is a condition whereby the kidney produces large amount of urine. This is not considered as a disease, like I said. Yes. Now, there are different things that can cause it. There's something called cold diuresis. When we are cold, as it is seen in this. Oh, I think I thought I had that. Okay. Now, as it is seen in cold, when we are shivering, I will believe that all of us have actually been in a case where we are very, very cold. Now, that phenomenon causes, that condition will cause the body to secrete lesser or no ADH. And once there's no ADH, we pass out a large amount of urine. So that is cold diuresis. And there's also osmotic diuresis, which means there are things you take. They are how do I put it? Like caffeine in a way. I think yes, caffeine has a way of causing lesser reabsorption of solute. All right. So what it does is that the moment you have a solute within the lumen of the nephron, some of those solutes, they have a way of preventing water reabsorption. And once you prevent water reabsorption, the amount of fluid that goes within the nephron to form urine becomes large once there's no reabsorption of water. So also we have diuretics. They are drugs that inhibit reabsorption of electrolytes. What do I mean? When those drugs prevent electrolytes are solutes, and solutes will attract water to itself. So once electrolytes are not reabsorbed out of the fluid, they are retained within the fluid, then it will cause water it will prevent water reabsorption, which will lead to ultimate removal of large amount of urine. Also, diuretic that inhibit action of aldosterone. Aldosterone ought to help to reabsorb sodium. Once sodium is reabsorbed, water will follow it. But once you have prevented it from being absorbed, water will stay where sodium is. So these are diuretics. They cause large amount of urine, and there are more than these. I'm just trying to mention few of them. There are actually more than this. There can be 7 of them, if not 10 of them categories. Now, generally speaking, there is diuresis that can be, sorry for that English please, can be physiological and pathological. The one I mentioned is physiological. Other ones can be pathological, such as diabetes insipidus. I beg your pardon. Diabetes insipidus. This is inappropriate diuresis of water beyond volumic state. Normal volumic state due to insensitivity of the collecting duct to ADH. So in this case, ADH is being secreted, or sometimes it doesn't get to secrete. There's a condition called inappropriate secretion of ADH. Now, if there's no ADH, you have diabetes insipidus, or ADH is being secreted, but the collecting duct is not responding to it. So large amount of urine will be excreted at all time, and in no time it will lead to dehydration. It can be self-limiting, and it can be managed easily because you can just consciously, of course, there's a thirst center in the hypothalamus that will cause person to be taking water. That's polydipsia, and the person will be taking a lot of water per time. All right. So this is a pathological condition where there is diuresis. All right. Now there's something called glomerulonephritis. This is due to inflammation of the glomerulus within the kidney. Now this could be caused by infection or toxins. All right. Now this causes protein and blood component to leak out of the glomerulus during glomerular filtration. When we have filtration at the beginning, you see that it's just only some amino acid, glucose, and all that's coming out. When the glomerulus become inflamed, it swells up. When it swells up, some of the gap between their lumen, between its perforations, become abnormally larger. Because of this largeness, while blood is passing through it, some other component like protein, some fluid will come out of the filter. You can see that here. You can see this is LD1, but down here you can see the what? Protein in urine and also blood, depending on how severe it is. So it can be cured using antibiotics majorly. All right, so it is an infection that will cause or a poisoning that will cause the glomerulus to swell up. All right, that is glomerulonephritis. All right. Then we have what we call kidney stone. Kidney stone is the precipitation of salt within the kidney, and this can be due to prolonged inadequate consumption of water. When you're not taking enough water, it can actually cause the salt, sodium, cholesterol, and some other things, protein, to precipitate together. You can see that here. See how it looks like this. This one was harvested from someone. It can actually be a bit hard when it's even exposed to air. So you can see it obstructing the flow of urine. It can start within the nephron, within the kidney, from different parts at the calyces as it is here, blocking them at the pyramid and the pelvis here. They can also block the ureter, which will obstruct the kidney, and the kidney will get swelling up. So it's caused by precipitation then of the salt within the kidney. When I mean salt, I mean sodium, potassium, all those solute, then with cholesterol. Now pay attention here that it can be removed surgically, or it can be, there's some drugs that can be used to dissolve it. I can't remember one of those such now, but that's how it's been managed. Then we have what we call edema or dropsy. Now dropsy is the puffy appearance of the face and the limbs. Now it can be caused due to two effects. It can be caused by lymphatic issues with the lymphatic system. That means the lymphatic system is not draining fluid very well. If you have seen my video on lymphatic system, you understand what I mean by that. Or circulation, basically, that I talked about. The lymphatic system, lymphatic capillary, helps to drain the fluid from the surface, from the tissue space during exchange of fluid between the capillary and the tissue. So basically speaking, if it is retained, if this fluid is not drained, it will lead to edema. That means there is issue with the lymphatic system, or there's issue with the kidney. The kidney is not filtering very well, so fluids tend to what? Store down or settle down in the lower limb. So we have two types of edema, which is the pitting one. The pitting one is when you press it, you can see it here that the person's hand, that impression is shown there. The non-pitting is very hard, filled with fluid and tissues. We press is very hard, so it doesn't give way to our pressing, so to say. So it can be caused by a kidney issue, as is seen in nephrotic syndrome, or issue with lymphatic system. But bear in mind here that pregnant women can actually have edema because of the weight of the compression of the fetus on the limbs, the lymphatic vessel of the lower limb. Doesn't mean they have kidney disease. Hope that is clear. And that will be all for now. The next one I want to talk about is kidney failure, which is just a case whereby the two kidneys are faulty, they are no more working. Of course, we can use one kidney to live, but if the two kidneys are faulty, that's leads to renal failure, and the person needs dialysis and a kidney transplant. And that'll be all for now. Thank you.